The air inside the Grand Palais crackled with electricity, a symphony of clicking heels, hushed whispers, and the faint scent of expensive perfume. Paris Fashion Week was in full swing, and the coveted invitation to the Elan Vitale showcase was a badge of honor, a confirmation of one's place within the glittering, ruthless world of high fashion. Backstage, however, the glamour dissolved into organized chaos. Models rushed past in various states of undress, stylists wrestled with bolts of silk, and makeup artists wielded brushes like tiny weapons. Amidst this whirlwind stood Maya Reyes, almost invisible. She wore a simple, hand-stitched linen dress the color of oatmeal, its lines clean but unremarkable. Her dark hair was pulled back in a loose braid, and her feet were clad in worn leather flats. At 32, her beauty was quiet, carried in the gentle curve of her lips and the steady gaze of her hazel eyes, eyes that observed the surrounding frenzy with a calm detachment. She clutched a worn sketchbook to her chest, its cover frayed at the edges. She wasn't a model, a stylist, or a journalist. She was simply there, an anomaly in this ecosystem built on calculated appearances. A sharp voice cut through the din. "You, girl, what are you doing back here? Deliveries go around the side." It was Isabelle Dubois, editor-in-chief of Vogue Paris, a woman whose severe blonde bob and glacial stare could freeze champagne. She flicked an imperious hand towards Maya, her eyes raking over the simple dress with undisguised contempt. Before Maya could respond, another figure swooped in, Victor Martel, a designer known for his ostentatious, jewel-encrusted gowns and equally abrasive personality. "Here's a bell, darling," he drawled, kissing the air near her cheek. "Don't tell me they're letting the cleaning staff wander now. This one looks like she stitched her dress from a discarded tablecloth." He laughed, a harsh, grating sound. Maya's fingers tightened on her sketchbook, but her expression remained neutral. She opened her mouth to explain she had a pass, a special arrangement, but Isabelle waved her off. "Security!" she snapped, her voice echoing. "We have a stray. Escort her out. This area is for professionals, not charity cases." A burly guard moved towards Maya, his face impassive. The surrounding chaos seemed to pause, heads turning, phones subtly angling to capture the unfolding drama. A young influencer, Chloe Summers, already live-streaming, giggled into her phone. "OMG guys, total fashion fail. Some rando literally crashing backstage." Her followers flooded the chat with laughing emojis and cruel comments. The guard gently took Maya's elbow. She didn't resist, didn't argue. She simply nodded, her gaze sweeping over Isabelle's disdainful face and Victor's smug smirk. They saw a nobody, a misplaced thread in their perfect tapestry. They had no idea they were looking at the ghost in their machine, the silent force behind the brand that had the entire industry buzzing. The name whispered with reverence. Aura. The guard led Maya through a labyrinth of equipment cases and discarded hangers, the stares of passing models, and crew like tiny barbs. "Sorry, ma'am," the guard muttered, clearly uncomfortable but following orders. "Rules are rules." Maya offered a small, understanding smile. "It's all right," she said softly. He deposited her near a service exit, the heavy door sighing shut behind her. Leaving her outside in the cool Parisian air, the muffled roar of the anticipating crowd a stark contrast to the backstage dismissal. She leaned against the cold stone wall, pulling her thin dress tighter around her. The humiliation stung, a familiar ache. It wasn't the first time her simple appearance had invited scorn in this world obsessed with surfaces. She remembered meetings where potential investors barely looked at her sketches, their eyes fixed on her unbranded shoes. She recalled boutique owners politely declining to stock her early pieces, suggesting she try craft markets instead. Yet each rejection had fueled her resolve, hardening her belief in her vision. Fashion that whispered rather than shouted, clothes that honored the wearer, not the label. She opened her sketchbook, tracing the lines of a design, her focus a shield against the lingering sting of Isabelle's and Victor's words. Inside, the show was about to begin. Isabelle settled into her front row seat, flanked by industry titans. Victor preened nearby, accepting compliments on his own recent collection. Chloe Summers continued her live stream, narrating the scene with breathless hyperbole. occasionally panning back to the service exit where she'd last seen Maya, adding captions like "Fashion Police" and "Know Your Place." None of them knew the main event, the closing show they were all waiting for. The debut runway presentation of Aura was intrinsically linked to the quiet woman they had just ejected like unwanted lint. The anticipation for the mysterious Aura brand was palpable, a fever pitch built over months of anonymous drops, minimalist campaigns featuring unknown faces, and garments that sold out instantly online despite zero traditional marketing. Whispers attributed the designs to a reclusive legend, a disillusioned couturier, even an AI. The truth was simpler and far more revolutionary. It was Maya designing from her small apartment, sourcing sustainable fabrics, overseeing every stitch with meticulous care, pouring her soul into clothes that felt like a second skin. She had built Aura anonymously, letting the work speak for itself, resisting the lure of the spotlight, the cult of personality that drove so much of the industry. Tonight was meant to be different, a quiet confirmation, but the backstage incident had cast a shadow. Maya took a deep breath, the cool air clearing her head. She straightened her dress, smoothed her braid, and walked purposefully towards the main entrance. Her pass, an all-access credential arranged by the event organizers who knew her true identity, was clutched in her hand. The security guard at the front entrance, a different one, glanced at her simple attire, then at the high-level pass, his eyebrows shooting up. He scanned it. Green light. He nodded, bewildered but compliant, and waved her through. She slipped into the darkened auditorium, finding an empty seat in the back row, far from the judging eyes of the front. The lights dimmed further, a hush falling over the crowd. The first few designers presented. Bold colors, dramatic silhouettes, the usual spectacle. Isabelle Dubois watched with a critical eye, occasionally making notes. Victor Martel looked bored, occasionally checking his reflection in his phone. Chloe Summers provided vapid commentary to her followers. Maya watched too, but not as a critic or a competitor. She observed the flow, the energy, the way the clothes moved on the models, absorbing it all. Then the stage went completely dark. A single spotlight illuminated the entrance to the runway. The minimalist, resonant beat of Aura's signature soundtrack began, a haunting cello melody layered over ambient electronic pulses. The first model emerged. She wore a simple, perfectly tailored pair of wide-leg trousers in flowing sand-washed silk and a matching sleeveless top. No logos, no embellishments, just pure form and exquisite fabric. A collective intake of breath swept through the audience. This was it. This was Aura. Model after model followed, each showcasing pieces that were deceptively simple, yet breathtakingly elegant. Flowing asymmetrical dresses, sharply cut jackets, trousers that pooled and moved like water. The palette was muted, creams, greys, deep indigos, blacks, but the impact was seismic. It was a quiet revolution against the noise and excess that often dominated the runway. The craftsmanship was evident in every seam, every drape. This wasn't just clothing, it was wearable art, intimate and powerful. In the front row, Isabelle Dubois leaned forward, her critical mask replaced by intense concentration. Victor Martel's bored expression vanished, replaced by disbelief, then a flicker of professional jealousy. Chloe Summers stammered on her live stream, "Wow, guys, this is different. Very minimal?" She clearly didn't know what to make of it, her usual buzzwords failing her. The audience was captivated, silent, absorbed in the understated power unfolding before them. Maya watched from the back, her heart pounding, a quiet pride swelling within her. These were her designs, her vision, brought to life. Each piece held a memory, a struggle, a triumph. She saw the hours spent sketching, draping, sourcing, the moments of doubt and the surges of inspiration. She saw her mother's encouraging smile in the clean lines, her own quiet resilience in the strength of the fabrics. The collection was a testament to her journey, an answer to the critics who valued surface over substance. The final model exited the runway. The cello music swelled, then softened, holding a single resonant note. The spotlight remained on the runway entrance. The audience waited, breathless, for the designer to appear, to finally put a face to the enigmatic aura. Whispers broke out. Who is it? Will they finally reveal themselves? Isabel straightened her jacket, anticipation etched on her face. Victor shifted in his seat, a frown creasing his brow. Chloe held her phone aloft, ready to capture the moment. The music shifted subtly, a new layer of piano notes weaving through the cello. And then, from the darkness, a figure emerged. It was Maya. She wore the simplest piece from the collection, a bias-cut slip dress in liquid silver silk that shimmered under the spotlight. Her hair was still in its loose braid, her feet still in the worn flats. She carried no pretense, no air of triumph, just a quiet solidity. She walked slowly, deliberately, down the center of the runway, her hazel eyes looking straight ahead, not with defiance but with a profound sense of self-possession. A wave of stunned silence washed over the auditorium, so complete it felt like the air had been sucked out. Then came the dawning recognition, the flickers of memory connecting the janitor from backstage, the charity case, with the figure now commanding the runway. Isabelle Dubois' face went slack, her mouth falling slightly open, her perfectly composed mask shattering. Victor Martel recoiled as if struck, his face turning a mottled red, a mixture of fury and humiliation. Chloe Summers gasped audibly, her phone nearly slipping from her grasp. "Way," she whispered, her live stream capturing her shocked expression, the comments section exploding with question marks and astonished exclamations. Maya reached the end of the runway and stopped. She didn't bow or wave. She simply stood there, bathed in the light, letting the reality sink in. The woman they had scorned, the woman whose dress they had mocked, the woman they had thrown out, was Aura. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken apologies and frantic recalculations of status. Then, from the back row, a single person began to clap, the security guard who had escorted her out earlier, his face alight with understanding and respect. Another person joined, then another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium erupted in thunderous applause, a roar of admiration and astonishment that shook the Grand Palais. It wasn't just polite clapping. It was a genuine ovation, a recognition of talent, resilience, and the shattering of expectations. Isabelle Dubois remained frozen, clapping mechanically, her mind racing. Victor Martel stared fixedly at the floor, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Chloe Summers hastily ended her live stream, her face burning. Maya finally allowed a small, genuine smile to grace her lips. It wasn't a smile of victory, but of peace. She gave a single, graceful nod, acknowledging the applause, acknowledging the moment. Then she turned and walked back up the runway, disappearing into the darkness as quietly as she had arrived, leaving behind a stunned silence and the lingering echo of her revolutionary designs. The aftermath was immediate and seismic. By the time the audience spilled out onto the Champs-Élysées, Maya Reyes, the designer behind Aura, was the only name on anyone's lips. News alerts flashed across phones. Mystery designer Aura revealed as Maya Reyes in stunning runway debut. Fashion world shocked as overlooked woman claims the spotlight. Social media exploded. Chloe Summers' earlier mocking live stream was screen-recorded and juxtaposed against footage of Maya's reveal, turning Chloe into an instant pariah. Aura revealed and Maya Reyes trended globally. Isabelle Dubois and Victor Martel were caught by paparazzi leaving the venue, their faces grim. Their earlier comments backstage, recounted by anonymous sources, likely crew members who had witnessed the incident, spread like wildfire, painting them as cruel elitists. Vogue Paris faced intense backlash, with calls for Isabelle's resignation flooding their social media. Victor Martel's upcoming collection preview was overshadowed, critics suddenly questioning his relevance in the face of Aura's quiet power. Inside the industry, the power dynamics shifted overnight. Buyers clamored for Aura. Boutiques that had once dismissed Maya now desperately tried to secure orders. Investors who had ignored her calls now bombarded her non-existent PR team with offers. Maya, however, remained elusive. She didn't grant interviews, didn't attend the lavish after-parties. She was back in her small apartment, sketching, the quiet hum of her sewing machine a counterpoint to the digital roar she had unleashed. She received a call from the event organizers, profusely apologizing for the backstage incident and Isabel's behavior. She accepted gracefully, requesting only that the guard who had clapped first be commended for his professionalism. A few days later, Isabelle Dubois issued a carefully worded public statement praising Aura's innovative vision, making no mention of her earlier encounter with Maya. It was widely ridiculed. Victor Martel remained silent, but rumors circulated that several key retailers were dropping his line. Chloe Summers deactivated her accounts after losing thousands of followers and several brand sponsorships. The consequences were swift, brutal, and self-inflicted. Maya, meanwhile, focused on her work. She used the sudden influx of resources not for personal gain, but to expand Aura thoughtfully, ensuring fair wages for her seamstresses and sticking to her sustainable sourcing principles. She quietly established a foundation to support young, overlooked designers from underprivileged backgrounds, funding it anonymously. Months later, at the opening of a small independent boutique dedicated solely to sustainable fashion, Maya made a rare public appearance. She wore another simple linen dress, greeting guests warmly. A young, aspiring designer approached her nervously, sketchbook in hand, apologizing for her own simple attire. Maya smiled, placing a hand gently on the girl's arm. "Your clothes don't define your talent," she said, her hazel eyes kind. "Your vision does. Show me what you've got." She spent the next hour looking through the young designer's sketches, offering quiet encouragement and insightful advice. The fashion world might still be grappling with the shockwaves of her reveal, but Maya Reyes remained unchanged, grounded, focused, letting her work and her quiet integrity speak for itself. She hadn't sought revenge, she had simply stayed true to herself, and in doing so had reshaped the landscape around her. The applause faded, but the impact of Aura and the quiet woman behind it endured. If this story about finding strength in authenticity resonated with you, please hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more stories that challenge expectations and celebrate the power within. Thank you for watching.